And good evening, everybody. Tom Young here on this Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us again. Another live interactive podcast, the Tom Talks Baseball podcast. Of course, with all that's been going on with COVID-19, things are a little bit different right now. So David and I aren't doing as much as we normally do in the studio. So I'm at home right now. David still has to spend a lot of time at the radio station. So that is where he is hanging out at the moment, but has taken time out of his busy day to join us. And David, how's it going, man? Thanks for being here tonight,
Hey,
dude.
hey, Tom, always a pleasure to get to sit here and talk a little baseball. Let me straighten my camera out here just a hair. There we go. Talk a little baseball with you on a beautiful Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, beautiful Thursday afternoon. And David, we do have a couple things that we need
Wednesday
to.
afternoon. Let me take that back. It's Wednesday.
Yeah, it is Wednesday. It is. That's another thing about this COVID thing. I kind of forget what day it is. I'm still kind of confused. But yes, it is smack dab in the middle of the week. But we do got some big news that kind of came down right off the bat. We were going to talk about this at some point with Joe Kelly and what happened yesterday between the Dodgers and the Astros. We knew it was going to happen. We knew that there was going to be some sort of possible beanball action towards the Houston Astros based on what happened last season or whatever with the cheating scandal. They didn't really get as much of a punishment as most fans probably wanted in terms of the players. And a lot of people thought they were going to be retaliated against with beanballs. And Joe Kelly last night decided to throw a couple at the heads of Alex Bregman and Carlos Correa, and then became a meme superstar after he struck out Correa. And then Major League Baseball came down this afternoon and said 8-game suspension for Joe Kelly. So, David, first off, based on what you saw, based on what you know, 8 games, do you think that's a healthy suspension, or do you think it's a little harsh or not harsh enough? What do you think?
I think it's a little harsh. I mean, Kelly got punished more than the Astros did for cheating. They lost their manager and all that. I understand that, but that was the game. I mean, he threw a couple of pitches up and ended, folks. He threw Correa some smoke that left him swinging like a broke gate. You get to talk that smack. So it's just funny how Major League Baseball picks and chooses who can show out and who can't. Bat flips, whatever. So I think that 8 games in a 60-game season, that's ridiculous.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's the main thing, too. 60-game season, that equates to roughly 22 games if it were a full 162. So that turns into a really massive chunk of the season. Now, fortunately, I guess, if you look at it from a Dodgers standpoint, he's maybe not one of the main players on the team. But when you look at the fact that the Houston players didn't really get punished individually, and Joe Kelly does, granted, you probably shouldn't be throwing at someone's head.
No.
You probably shouldn't be doing that. Like the whole, the face and the pout face that he did, I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And it led to a benches clearing situation, which kind of leads into another issue that we're seeing. And Major League Baseball wasn't very happy with the close proximity of players and coaches on that. And yes, COVID-19 is definitely making things very tricky here in 2020. And we have a team right now, and this is obviously a team that is making a lot of people think we're not going to get through these 60 games. And the Florida Marlins had a game on Sunday against the Phillies. Now, I think it was according to The Athletic, they knowingly had multiple players on the team that had positive tests for COVID and decided to play anyway. And they play the game, and now it's up to, I believe, 18 members of the team, including 15 players and 3 staff, I believe, of the Marlins that have tested positive. And so they're not going to play through at least Sunday. Maybe Monday or Tuesday, they're going to come back. Fortunately, and this was the main thing that was going to determine in my mind whether or not we were going to be able to get through this season, is they took the field with the Phillies with these positive players. If those tests came back positive, if they had a few that kind of ballooned up, then I thought we were going to be in big trouble.
Right.
They fortunately did not. They had a clubhouse guy test positive, a guy who I think was working in the visiting clubhouse with the Marlins. But what this did And we saw it affected the schedules of 4 teams. The Marlins, the Phillies, the Nationals, the Yankees, and the Orioles now too. It's just it's kind of a mess early on. Not even a full week into this. So I guess the first question is avoiding COVID-19, traveling around playing these games possible, or is it, as the banner says there, an unavoidable disaster waiting to happen? What do you think?
Well, it's sad. The NBA, NHL, professional MSL, Major League Soccer, they did the bubble thing. We're going to put everybody on the same campus and go from there, so they're not traveling and doing this or doing that or leaving. The NFL and Major League Baseball said, no, we're going to travel. We're going to bounce from city to city. You made a great point about how many other teams it affected. Now they're talking about the Yankees making up those games with Philly in a doubleheader, 7-inning games. Come on, you've really thrown a monkey wrench in this whole equation. I do like the one rule that Major League Soccer did, that if you had so many players test positive, your whole team was sent home. I think that should be a fitting route for the Marlins. If you knew before you took the field that you had players that were ill, that's very irresponsible. It makes me think back to starting of school and what are some of the expectations we put on kids for school. If you can't get a 28-year-old millionaire to social distance and follow the protocols and do the rules, good luck getting a third grader to do it. So it's just, the Marlins should be ashamed. Those players should be ashamed of themselves.
The thing that I find amazing was they had something like 113-page pamphlet, if you will, of protocols for COVID-19. How did it come down to a bunch of guys who aren't experts in the medical field deciding whether or not to play? How did that, why wasn't this just nipped in the bud from the beginning? Hey, you're not playing. Go take care of this. We'll try to minimize the effects on everything else. And granted, at the same time, who knows if they don't play, maybe it still balloons up to 18 because who knows where the virus got contracted. But the main thing was, in my opinion, that no one on the Phillies tested positive for it. If that were to have spread to that team, that could have then shown the severity of this and how it maybe doesn't work. I think we're still going to find a way to get through this season. You're going to have teams not play 60 games. The way they set things up here, the other leagues have found ways to where if they want to, or they kind of build in time for COVID, if you will, where if something happens, okay, we got no problem going to a certain point to try to make sure we can get this finished, get it done right. Baseball's we got to be done by November, no matter what. That's why we're only playing 60 measly games this season instead of more, because we got to be done by November. Teams got to play 60 games in 66 days. Well, you don't have a lot of time for the Marlins to make up games if they got to sit out at least a week, and that's if everything goes well. There's talks that they might be out 2 weeks for all we know, and it's just that there's no room for error. And within the first week, we have error in terms of the COVID-19 spreading throughout one team. Do you think the Marlins themselves should be punished for possibly putting others in danger with this? Or do you just, is this punishment enough to where they're going to have to come back with probably a AAA squad?
Well, shame on Major League Baseball, too, because I thought you were going to have experts available and analyzing this and working with these people. If those guys tested positive and you allowed them to go out on the field and there was Major League Baseball representatives in that clubhouse, shame on them. The Marlins, I have no sympathy for them. If you get quarantined here in our county, let's say you go take a test, 3 days later you get your results, you're positive. The sheriff comes to your house and gives you papers that say, do not leave from this area. Do not do this. Do not do that. And if you do, you're facing jail or penalty. Why? Because you make $1 million a day. Does that vote any differently. If you knowingly went out with the communicable disease like COVID-19, I don't have any sympathy for you.
And something we've kind of seen across this country, and we're not going to get political. I don't want to talk politics on this podcast, but what you can say about the numbers is they're going up. Cases have gone up here in the country of late. A lot of people aren't taking it as seriously as others. And you can say what you want about that, but here in Major League Baseball, we saw it with the Marlins playing despite knowing the positive test. We saw it with the benches clearing brawl last night with the Astros and Dodgers. I was just watching a little bit of the Rockies A.
Yeah.
German Marquez, by the way, looking really good. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he pitched 6 strong innings against Oakland in the Coliseum today. He's back in the dugout. The coaches, you know how it normally is. You take him out of the game. You go give him a high five, handshake, and all that stuff. Well, you're not supposed to be doing that right now. And they're all in there hugging the guy, handshakes and stuff. I don't think players are taking this as seriously as they should. Now, granted, I get it. You're in the middle of competition. You got a bunch of alpha males out there. They're competitive. They have routines. They spit. They do all sorts of stuff. It's kind of built into who they are. But I think they need to try a little bit harder at adjusting, because you can see what happens if just 1 or 2 people on a team get it. It can spread like mad through that clubhouse and put a season in jeopardy. I like to think that this is some sort of a message to the other teams in the league. Hey, be serious about this, because your season could severely be in jeopardy.
And the salary shouldn't be guaranteed past that point either. If in the case of the Marlins, I mean, you guys screwed that up. And that's the big worry. Are we going to get through 60 and safely? How are we going to get through 60 and safely? You looked at baseball this weekend, a couple of big innings for teams who played great baseball, and they were high-fiving and slapping and no big deal. And I saw that this weekend. I thought, wow, something's not right here. I thought we were going to be socially distanced. I thought we were going to put players even in the first row behind the dugout so you have your social distance. It seemed like an old traditional dugout to me this weekend. The bad boys wore masks, but even some players are wearing masks. But as a whole, everybody's back on the bench doing their thing again. So, it's tough to contain when people are following the rules.
Now, your thoughts on being able to finish this season before compared to now, has it changed based on the Marlins news? Or were you positive before and negative now? Were you negative to begin with? Where's your do you think we're going to get through 60 in a postseason, or do you think this is going to it's not going to happen?
I was positive beforehand, and I remain positive at the risk of one small thing: the health of the players and their family. If that ever becomes an issue, we roll up the streets and we call it a day. But as long as they're following the social distancing, I think MLB said they're going to test 2 times a week for their players. They have their own lab to do that and do that sort of thing, so it's not a burden on the system. I want to see a full season. I think that's probably more of me than anything else, wanting to see a complete baseball season.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And to be honest, it's been kind of fun. The whole no fans thing is interesting. I was watching the Cubs Reds last night, and a lot of these stadiums are pumping in fan noise, And I think either the microphone of the broadcast didn't pick up the noise or something, but it was the most dead sounding thing I had heard. It was like, 8th inning Cubs and Reds, and it literally, you could hear crickets. It was almost like something kind of eerie, but artistic about it. It was almost like, I don't know, because your focus was solely on the game because you didn't have any fans in the stands. It was a really weird sound because usually you're hearing this pumped in stadium noise and all that. Tom Talks Baseball. Tom Young, David Lovejoy here. We're doing this live on Facebook, which we've been doing for a while, and this is an interactive deal. So if you want to leave a comment, we can see those comments and you can maybe be a part of the show. So below, If you want to comment on the Marlins, if you want to comment on Joe Kelly, there you go. Joe Kelly his 8-game suspension for what throwing at Houston yesterday and then becoming a meme superstar afterwards. You can do that, and we're going to check about some other things too. The thing is with these, we're thinking about maybe doing these around 5 o'clock or so during the week while COVID's still a thing at the radio station. We're kind of in and out of there, not as much in as we are out. So that's another reason why we're doing it like this right now. But we want you guys to be involved with this. And we're going to be on for maybe 30, 45 minutes. That way we can get off and you can go watch the night games if you want, which is something I plan on doing it as soon as I get my dinner as well. But David, we've done about 5 games. Most teams have played 5 games. Some have played 4. We got a couple games going on right. Oh, I told you I had a rant. I want to give you my rant.
Yeah, what's my rant?
Hold on. Okay, hold on. So
hold on. Let me get your soapbox ready. Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of. So I have Sling. I have YouTube. I have Major League Baseball extra innings. What I don't have is cable, regular cable, a Comcast or a Suddenlink. Because I don't have a Comcast or a Suddenlink, I don't have the local sports channels that you would need to watch the local sports teams. Who's on right now? And you, Mr. KGNC 710 AM and 97.5 FM, the Texas Rangers are on, by the way, tied at 2, taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Yeah. I wanted to watch that on my extra innings. Guess what I can't do?
You can't watch it blacked out.
I'm blacked out. I can't watch it here. It's also on MLB Network. I can't watch it there because for whatever reason in Amarillo, Texas, I'm in the market that doesn't allow me to watch these games. And we've talked about this before, but especially now more than ever, you have a chance to really, really grab an audience more so than you've had in a long time. You don't have to compete with the NBA or the NFL or the NHL right now or college football, possibly by the time you get a little bit later, and you're blocking me from watching a team that is 6 hours from me. Are you kidding me? Why didn't this get fixed when all this crap went down? It is so infuriating that blackouts still exist. It used to be a deal back in the day. I get it, but I believe at some point in the late 90s, early 2000s, the whole blackout thing with the FCC was no longer a law. So this doesn't need to happen. Let us have it. Let Canada watch the Blue Jays. For Pete's sake, they can't even play in Canada because Canada doesn't want them bringing the virus back to their country. Can't blame them, but at least let the people of Canada watch their team. They got an exciting young team right now. And Tristan Forbes, thanks for watching tonight, says Hulu has local channels, and some of the services do. I do have an antenna, so I can pick up an NBC or an ABC, a CBS, or a Fox, but the package I got had the other channels that I wanted. I wanted the MLB network. I wanted the NFL network. I wanted NBA TV. And Hulu was missing something. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't go with it. But why can't I pop it on here right now, go to my screen and watch this game? Oh, I want to watch the broadcast. Oh, it's been determined that this game is not available in my area because apparently a 6-hour drive is close. It's so stupid. I know I've talked about that before, and it's a good game right now, 2-2. They're at home, the new Globe Life Field without fans, but they're breaking that field in, taking on Arizona, and I can't watch it on my television. Now, I could listen to it on the radio, 710 AM and 97.5 FM KGNC. That is correct. But I'm sorry. I just had to say that because I was trying to watch this game before I came on here to do the show, and I was like, "Dang it! I forgot about that," and it is so infuriating.
It is. It's really unfair, and just like you said, when you're trying to maintain, MLB was the first major team sport back. The PGA had come back. NASCAR come back, but this was the first major team sport. you could have jumped on that momentum. Sunday ticket, League Pass. I have DirecTV. I've been a DirecTV member since 1998. I used to buy the NFL Sunday ticket to see all the NFL games. And then I found myself not watching any NFL games because I'm trying to see every little piece. And so I'm never watching games. So I stopped doing that. But there's enough channels on my DirecTV that every night I can go home and find 3 or 4 games. I had the Padres and Giants last night. I had Houston and the Dodgers. The early game with the Mets and Boston. And I'm trying to remember. I'm drawing a blank on who had the early game on FS1. I got to see all those games, and I still had my Fox Sports Network's game. So I could have looked at a number of different teams. And I just think this is a problem we're talking about, Tom. This is why your attendance is low. This is why people don't fall in love with the game. Because when I was a kid, you had like 14 channels even on cable, but you got to see your local team play. Here locally, they used to play their games on the NBC affiliate, one of their extra channels. Every Friday, I think, and one day during the week, they would have Texas Ranger baseball or Astro ball. Now, if you don't have the upper tier cable, you're out. I mean, I hate the idea that we play playoff games in all of our sports on channels where some people cannot get it. They just won't be able to get it. I think that you're killing the golden goose. And right now, with all the issues baseball is going to go through with the pitching scandal, now they're getting this shine from the Marlins. Just cater to your fans. Be the better person.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, let me watch the Rangers. Without needing one specific channel that I don't get unless I have a specific service. And Tristan kind of saying it right here. Where'd his comment go? Here it is. He has Suddenlink right now, but he might go full streaming soon.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. A lot of people are doing that. A lot of people are getting away from the hardwired cable from the wall. They're going to a YouTube TV, to a Sling, to one of these other numerous services that don't necessarily focus on the local channels. And so you lose some of those. Maybe an antenna can give you some, but it can't give you all. And then they're doing this. It's just ridiculous. And I've never been a fan of that. Justin Casey popped him up here. I ran into him. I went to one of the TCL games a while back at Hodgetown, the Texas Collegiate League going on, final week of that, Sod Dogs and Sod Squad. The Tulsa teams in town, I think they're here for the next 6 days playing, the Dogs and the Squad and just, a couple different 3-game series. He's with Bomb City Bats, Max Marisnik. I hope I got the name right. Using one of his bats this year in the Texas Collegiate League, and Amarillo kid, Texas Tech player, student. So Justin, good to see you on here, man. It was a lot of fun running into you. And what was really cool about that too was we were walking across the street. We were waiting to cross Buchanan, and there was a foul ball, and I believe his son ran over and got the foul ball. So like right by the parking garage. And so he got a foul ball right before he even got, it's like, dude, you don't even need to go to the game now.
Yeah,
You're good to go, man. Oh, speaking of that.
That's what baseball is right there. That's the whole fun of it. You caught one a couple of weeks ago. And
yes, I did. This is mine. I got a Texas Collegiate League foul ball as well.
How many did you get last year at the Sod Pool game? Did you get 2 or something?
I got one, and I was outside the stadium, and it hit our station vehicle. I heard that loud thud of it hitting a car, and then I saw the ball rolling in the street. This one I was actually in the stadium for. I was down beyond the right field line, and a foul ball hit one of the patio chairs out there and rolled right to me. Now, it was rolling fast, so I had a little bit of time. I was like, okay, let's make sure that I'm I'm set. I got good form. I don't let it go through the wickets. I put my foot down. I went down to a knee. I mean, it was proper technique for fielding a grounder, like if you're an outfielder. And then I was able to get a Texas League foul ball here. So I think I'm gonna head out there on Friday. You should go, man.
I'd love to. I'd love to get one in before they take off. There's nothing like watching live baseball. It's just a treat and a joy to be in that stadium. But I'm going to have to holler at Justin. I've always been a wood bat guy. Back in the day, every spring I would go get an Adirondack. Now that company's owned by Rawlings. But there was a place down on the other side of 3rd Street that you could go. And, if you wanted 12 or whatever, you could order those bats. And I'd get a couple of 32 ounces, a couple of 31s, and go to the batting cage and see if I could make some wood kindling out of it. But I'm going to have to holler at Justin about a bat. I want a good quality wood bat to go to a cage. We were talking about it yesterday. Where is a good batting cage at in here in our area?
And Justin, if you're still hanging out, let us know. Because I think there was the mini golf place, was it Sports World?
Yeah.
Down by the Hollywood off the Loop. They had one. I went there a while back, and nothing against them, but I wasn't a big fan of that one. But I don't know where else they have a batting cage unless there's one that you can pitch at. And you've all seen me throw. I can't do that anymore. So I just assume I have a machine. Dennis Humphrey checking us out tonight. You all might know Dennis. That picture might give it away. The MC at the Sod Poodles games. We had him on the podcast last year, and just a lot of fun, him and Kyle coming on. But he found a foul ball down back the back stairway from the media booth sitting there on the roof, so he decided to jump off the rail and go get that ball. That's exactly what you do, Dennis. You go get that. You go get that ball.
Dennis, if you have ever met Dennis, he's a high energy guy. That just sounds like the norm for him. That was no big deal jumping the rail and doing that. I can see him doing that every time.
Yeah, he and Kyle do excellent work out there, MC, and it's got to be a stressful job, but also a fun job, I think, and they do a great job of it. And it's been a lot of fun to see them be able to do mostly a Sod Poodle type game, even though it's not the Sod Poodles team here in town. So they've still been able to do some of the things that they were hoping to do for 2020. Justin says putt-putt. I wonder if he's talking about the same place I'm talking about, because I don't think there's like an actual putt-putt in town.
Off I-30, I-27, out toward
in Hollywood,
Preston West.
I-20. Where at?
I'm thinking out of I-27, where Preston West Golf Club is. I
think you and I are talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
I think that's off of Hollywood there in I-27. That little par 3 golf course you're talking about there. Yeah,
exactly.
So maybe I'll give those another shot. I don't know. It was a while back. So maybe David, we'll go out there. I got a couple bats that I don't mind breaking if something happens. We'll go take a couple hacks in the cage there.
Yeah.
One final thing we want to talk about. Thank you all for joining us. Once again, interactive podcast, and you all have been chiming in. It's a lot of fun seeing you guys, and it's a lot of fun to chat with you and have you guys kind of dictate what it is we're talking about. But we are live on Facebook right now, Tom Talks Baseball Podcast, and recently YouTube. So if you look up Tom Talks Baseball Podcast on YouTube, you can find us there as well. And that's a great place. If you aren't a Facebook fan, you can find us there. I've been sharing that link on our Twitter page at Tom Talks BBP, and you can watch the show there, also comment on the show there. We can see those just the same as we are seeing the ones here on Facebook. Dennis, so many news stories, man. The stories he told us on the podcast last year, I have to go back. I can't remember what episode that was we did it on, but you can man, they were hilarious. One of those had me in tears. The one with the little kid and the toilet seat toss game, like purposely knocking it out of the air. Oh my goodness, that was freaking great. And we'll have to get him and Kyle back on, because I'm sure they got some more stories like he's saying right there.
But I tell you, one of the best stories he told us was about the Father's Day Sunday, and the Sod Poodles let the dads and the kids down on the field. And I was at that game, and it was like they were in Wonderland. And I mean, they're just on a ball in the outfield, running around, and those kids, I mean, they were like, oh, just going 1,000 miles an hour. That was one of my favorite stories from the 2019 Todd Poodle season.
Yeah, a lot of great stories. A magical year for sure with the Saw Poodles, and then them winning the championship of the Texas League and everything. And looking forward to getting back to some more magic in 2021 when the Saw Poodles can come back in. Who knows what it's even going to look like? Because minor league baseball might look considerably different next year with the contraction and everything. Do we even? And I could be completely wrong here. Do we even have a Texas League? Do we even have that same 8 teams playing each other? Do we have a different set of teams? Like maybe Round Rock and San Antonio are now part of a brand new Texas League that's actually Texas or something. Who knows how things are going to look next year. But as for this year, we're a little bit into the season, and some things have been surprising so far, David, one way or another. So I got a few things I want to talk about real quick that have been surprising. A new one I'm going to add to the list based on what just happened today. But we'll start off with you. What's one thing? And if you, once again, watching anything that's surprising you, we want to know about it. Leave a comment here and we can talk about that in a little bit as well. But what's one thing, at least so far, David, that you've been surprised with here in 2020?
I'm surprised by the NL Central right now. I picked the Reds, Joey Votto in the game to come back strong, and they look good for a while, but the Cubs have just really just said, hey, we're Chicago. And probably the biggest surprise was that opening game with Kyle Hendricks on the mound. He went old school on him. He didn't try to smoke him. He wasn't trying to high cheese him. He had more junk than Sanford and Son, and just paced himself and just threw a marvelous game, 9 innings. And I thought, no, they're not going to leave, man. They're not. This is the first game they haven't played. And the guy just threw a beautiful ball game. If he can get that run support from Happ and Rizzo and those guys, and Wilson Contreras bounces back. Javi had a great game last night. Man, the Cubs could be. We said this earlier. You get on a 5-6 game winning streak, you've set your playoffs right there, especially with the expanded format. You reel off 5 or 6 good games in your division, because that's a big thing. You're playing mainly in your division, and then your counterpart across the aisle in the American League. You get hot in there and knock off a couple of teams, a couple of week series, it's over. It's over. The Cubs have really surprised me in how they play baseball. After Joe Maddon leaving, I thought they were going to come out a little flattened down, but they're not.
Yeah, and they're one of my surprises too. We knew they were going to be competitive. They got the makeup to be, but the way they look so far, especially Hendricks coming out, we talked about pitchers not going that deep into ball games, and he throws a complete game shutout right off the bat. And they've played 5 games against Milwaukee and Cincinnati, 2 teams figured to be right there. In fact, you and I both picked Cincinnati to win the division. Yeah. And Cincinnati, this hasn't been talked about a little bit, but they got a couple players out right now, Nick Senzel and Mike Moustakas, possibly COVID-related. We're going to keep an eye on that. So I don't think they're in the lineup tonight taking on the Cubs. But the Cubs offense has been great. I think they're tied for the major league lead in home runs. Rizzo's got 3. Baez hit a couple last night. The starting pitching has been outstanding, although the bullpen scares you. Craig Kimbrell. Oh boy. That could be a big problem. Fortunately, Jeffers came in and got the job done, even though it was a little shaky too. With the bullpen is a little scary, but the Cubs are off to a really good start. I'm going to go the other way a little bit. We talked a bit about the Cubs. I'm going to talk about the Reds and a few other teams. We got the 1-4 club right now.
Yeah.
Teams that are 1-4, the Red Sox, the White Sox, the Nationals, and the Reds. And especially the Red Sox. Red Sox lost 2 to Baltimore, and they've lost 2 to the Mets so far. White Sox, within the division, 2 to Minnesota, 2 to Cleveland. The Nationals at home lost a couple to the Yankees, and then they've lost a couple to the Blue Jays, the Toronto Nomads, as I'm going to call them this year. and then Cincinnati had it. They were going to get off to a great start. They're at home against Detroit. They're at home against the Cubs. they got the situation to go off, but they're 1-4 with a couple losses to the Tigers and then the Cubs, and they got to play one more tonight with Hendricks going on the mound, I believe, against Sonny Gray. But of those 4 teams, the Red Sox, the White Sox, the Nationals, the Reds, which one do you think has the best chance to recover?
I think I have to go with the Reds, not just because I picked them to win it, but they have the veteran players, they have the bats, and if their pitching gets on track, they have a better shot than anyone to try to climb back into it. I watched the Sox play the Mets the other night. I just don't have any confidence in Sale. I don't have any confidence. Their pitching staff is just suspect to me, and so I just don't have any confidence in Boston. I think the White Sox. Now, we talked about that. The White Sox and the Padres were 2 of my teams that I said we're going to surprise you. I didn't want the Sox to surprise us like that. But we also have to consider they're young, man. Those are a bunch of kids out there for that White Sox team. And they're probably ahead of schedule. And the 60-game kind of sprint, we talked about it. Either you're going to come out of the gate sprinting or stumbling. It's going to hurt you either way. So I can't be too down on the Sox. It's Cincinnati, I think, will dig their way out.
Yeah, they've lost 4 in a row, I believe. That's like the equivalent of losing 12 in a row with this compact season. I think I think the White Sox are actually going to be the team that can recover because they got to play the Tigers and the Royals 20 times. Mm-hmm. I think the bats are there. They got to get the pitching going. They ran into a buzzsaw in Minnesota, Nelson Cruz, who apparently is 20 years old now. And granted, he's been good for a while, but I thought he was going to kind of a little small surprise here. I thought he was going to struggle a little bit because of the extra off time, being a 40-year-old guy. No, he just came out and dominated. So I think the White Sox are going to recover. Now, granted, the Nationals have been without Juan Soto because he's been under COVID-19 conditions. He's hoping to return really soon. If he can come back, of course, they got the pitching, you would think, to be able to make a comeback in that division. And who knows how things are going to happen because, one of the teams that got to play 10 times, the Marlins, now we don't know what's going on with them. They voted not to travel to Miami. Can't blame them there because, Miami and Florida itself, a hotbed right now for new COVID cases. So we'll see how their season finishes up. That could be another stress as well, not knowing exactly where you're going to be going on a regular basis.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, on Newsday Amarillo every morning, we have a saying called "That's China being China." Whenever shenanigans have to deal with China, that's China being China. Well, I need to say this. That's the Rangers being the Rangers. Corey Kluber, big money, going to be our savior there in Texas. One inning. Rangers being the Rangers right there.
One inning. And the Rangers, by the way, losing 3-2 right now to the Diamondbacks at the top of the 8th inning. Before we move on to the next one, Justin says, David, hey, he'd love to cut you a bat.
Let's do it, Justin.
Maybe get in touch with Justin there. And, maybe I can I'll find out how much like a Tom Talks baseball bat or something. And we can figure something out. But check out Bomb City Bats on Facebook. I'll give him a little plug here. He shows some of the work that he's done, and bats look nice, man. And obviously, Max Marisnik using it in the Texas League, he trusts it to work for him as well. And my buddy Tim Landis, you can find him on YouTube at Tim's Tiny Arcade. Digging the Pac-Man shirt. So he's got some Pac-Man fever. He's a big Atari fan. So, and then Arturo checking us out as always, big Dodger fan. He got to us late. Arturo, if you want to drop your thoughts in here, we talked about Joe Kelly a little bit earlier. Let us know what you think about his 8-game suspension. Learned about that about an hour or two ago from Major League Baseball. And, my next surprise, my next surprise is with the Braves. Not so much the Braves themselves, but with Mike Foltynewicz. He had one bad start, and he's not the only pitcher in the league to have a bad start, but this guy was an all-star a couple years ago. He pitched for them and struggled a little bit in 2019, but had like an ERA under 4.5, which, this day and age is not awful. He had a great outing for them in the postseason against the Cardinals, had a 7 shutout inning performance for them. Now, his other 3 outings, not the greatest, but still nothing that looked too over the top alarming for what happened. And that's they got rid of him. They said, you're gone. After 1 start, Mike Fultonevich is gone. And so I thought that was a very shocking move. They wasted no time on that one. And so maybe Yoeli Chacin might step into that 5th spot. I'm not quite sure who they're going to use there. But the Braves, a team that some people think may win the World Series this year, they have a very talented team. And after 1 start, one of their pitchers, they're like, nope, we're not even going to give you another chance. You're out of here. What do you think about that?
That's 60 games it's going to make teams do some strange things, and that really shocked me. I mean, 1 bad outing. We talked about it too, about one of the guys that you really love to watch play baseball is Ohtani in California. He got shelled.
Yeah, yes, he did.
And so, I mean, how much leeway is Madden going to give him? Is he going to say, okay, we'll give you 2 more starts? If he comes out in this next start next Sunday and he doesn't make it to the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning with good pitches, it might be just, dude, we just want you to play this position this year. Next year, we'll look at the mound again.
And I think that's what they should do. And I'm kind of with you. Yeah, let's one more, because he had the rough, intra squad start, and then his next one was a little bit better. But, right now his ERA is infinite. He didn't even record an out. So his ERA is INF, which is not the kind of ERA you want to have.
No. You don't want that on the back of your car, do you?
Yeah. Focus on the hitting. Get that figured out this year. And then hopefully next year you can have a regular off season, a regular spring training, and then get back to, because he was really good. I mean, he earned that Rookie of the Year award a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And so he can maybe do that again. But, that's kind of a surprise too. One other surprise for me is the Padres. Now, I'm not saying that they were going to be bad, but they're 4-1, and the way they're getting it done, Tatis Jr. looks really good. You and I were talking about this. He had a home run last night at PNC.
Ridiculous, wasn't it?
A right-hander going to right field there over that high wall. Now, he didn't have a splash shot or anything, but the fact that he was able to hit that kind of ball just shows the kind of power that he has. Because you think of him more as this flashy kind of speedster contact guy, but the dude's got some pop, and he showcased that. He had a 3-run triple a couple of days ago on a hard ground ball past the shortstop that went to the left center field wall. It reminded me of Javier Baez, like the kind of power you can hit on a low line drive to just skip all the way to the wall. But he's playing really well. Eric Hosmer, who had a 90 RBI season last year, but struggled with like a 230 batting average. He's off to a really good start. Will Myers is kind of a guy offensively that could really determine what this team does, because he's been good before. I mean, he was one of the main pieces in Tampa Bay a few years ago. Hasn't quite panned out in San Diego so far, but he's off to a really good start, showing some great power. I think had a really good home run last night. Garrett Richards, coming back from injury, they picked him up 5 shutout innings in his first start. That's a promising sign. Chris Paddock, the sheriff, we got to learn a little bit about him when we were hoping he would come here last year to Amarillo, but no, he went straight to the Padres. But he is he was looking good. The Padres looking really good right now. A lot of people like their bullpen, and the Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw is a question mark. Joe Kelly's going to be out 8 games, which is not a big piece. But what about the Padres? Can they actually? And I know your answer because you said it on the show. But why can they win this division?
Because it's 60 games. If this was a regular season, I would have been really apprehensive. Those young players, sometimes they start after the All-Star game, where they get into that. If they're at the top of that division, it starts getting a little heady for them. But this is a 60-game sprint. And whoever got out of the gate with the best foot, Tommy Pham looks like he's found his home finally. The kid with the ties to Amarillo is throwing opening day starter. They have the talent. They have a decent lineup. The bats, are coming alive. But with Tatis and just the way they've structured that team, the infield, that's going to be an infield that's around for a while. They're a little soft in the outfield, but they can knock down runs. They're not going to let you score a ton on them with their defense in the infield. So I was high on the Padres, and they're playing great baseball. I love to watch them play.
Yeah, they are a lot of fun to watch right now, and Manny Machado isn't even doing anything yet. He's the one that's supposed to be. So what if he gets going?
Yeah, exactly. And you can say the same thing about, and that's the thing that's scary about the Dodgers, though. Mookie's still getting his seat in the National League and finding where he's at. Dodgers don't care. They have such a powerful lineup. They can do it without him. And when he does start clicking, you better watch out. So, yeah, Machado is the same point. If he starts getting hot, man, I don't want to see that.
Yeah. Well, that's the meat of our show tonight, but we're not going to hop off yet. Thank you very much for watching. We got some comments here, and we want to showcase some of these comments, react to what you guys got to say. Tim Landis, once again, thanks for checking us out tonight. Yeah. Talked about this a little bit. By the way, I'm liking his Nintendo 64 shirt that he's wearing there. Is Major League Baseball in trouble already with dozens of Marlins players and staff testing positive with COVID? And the thing that we were kind of saying earlier is it is a little worrisome. I would have been more worried about it had the Phillies players tested positive.
Yeah.
Now, whatever you want to believe, because I know a lot of people don't like to believe what they hear or see, but Major League Baseball is saying among the other 29 teams, there's nothing else alarming right now. There's no positive tests. Now that there is something going on in Cincinnati with Nick Senzel and Mike Moustakas, and there's a reason why they haven't played. That could be COVID related, but other than that, I would have been really concerned had the Marlins taken the field with those positive players, and then afterwards, like 3 or 4 Phillies players tested positive. Then all of a sudden, you're spreading this to another team. I think baseball's okay right now, but we saw what could happen, though, as 4 teams had their schedules affected by this. If it ends up being a bigger issue, if it ends up throwing off competitive balance, I think baseball is going to have to come to a halt. I think, and as dumb as this is to say, and we'll kind of play off Arturo a little bit on his comment here. Baseball might be looking at this a little bit differently if it was like the Yankees. I could be wrong on that, but the Marlins are a team that aren't going to compete this year. They're young. And granted, they're off to a 2-1 start. They were looking really good against the Phillies. But as a whole, it's not a team. It's not the Dodgers. It's not, the Twins. It's not a team that they expect to be there that got hit by this. It's a team that no one expects to be there that is going to just put a bunch of AAA talent in there anyway afterwards, and it's probably going to be the same result. I could be wrong with that type of thinking, but and I hope I am. I hope in the end they're taking all the necessary precautions to ensure the safety of players and staff, especially staff, because you got a lot of older guys in there, and we know COVID can have a bigger impact on the older population. But I think baseball's okay right now, but I'm hoping the other 29 teams have learned from what happened here. If you have something going on, don't make it worse.
Don't do it.
Because you're going to mess up a lot of other teams. Now, Arturo's a big Dodger fan, and I asked him, since he came in a little bit late, to tell us about his thoughts on the Joe Kelly suspension. Says he's very upset by that suspension. He wasn't part of the 2017 team. Now, to be fair, he was on the Red Sox that year, I believe. So he still went against the Astros in that postseason. Astros are lucky there are no fans in the stadium and that they're expanding the playoffs. Now they have Major League taking care of them. It's BS. And I definitely see that argument of, the Astros players didn't get punished, but then Joe Kelly did. And then he goes on to say they need to allow the players to give justice to themselves. The only issue I have, and I said this earlier, throwing at the head.
Yeah.
Like if you were to throw at the backside of both those guys, fine. I actually enjoyed the taunt that became the everyone's favorite meme. I enjoyed the little and the pounding lip. That was funny. And then of course with no fans in the stands, everything that's being said can be heard by everybody, and I'm sure that kind of made things worse than what it was. But an eight game suspension is pretty hefty. But I know at the same time, if Major League Baseball doesn't do that, other teams are going to go in there and start throwing head hunting as well on the Astros, and they do need to protect them in that regard. But when Major League Baseball didn't punish the team the way that everyone thought they should have been punished, players are going to try to do that, and that's exactly what you're seeing there.
You know how that works.
Yeah. Arturo goes on to say, too much protection for the Astros. MLB looking bad for protecting them too much. Astros were chirping from the bullpen too. Yeah, but both sides were chirping for sure. But I think if he's not throwing at the head, we might be looking at maybe like a 2-game suspension or something. Something that's not severe. But the head hunting, I think, is what led to the bigger suspension.
That's gonna hurt, man. 8 games.
8 games, yeah. I think we said that's the equivalent of 22.
22 ball games.
If it were a 162 game season, if that'd be weighted to 22 games. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely a big loss. Now granted, it's for the Dodgers' sake, it's not a Mookie, it's not a Bellinger. But they still got to worry about getting Kershaw healthy. And like we talked about the Padres, they got a really fun, exciting team. And Dennis, our buddy MC from Hodgetown, says he loves the fact that the Padres have got their baseball team here in Amarillo. He would have never followed them, but the Sod Poodles have made him do so. We had Tatis here for a game and a half last year. And, of course, Edward Olivares, who is a staple on that Sod Poodle team all year long, is off to a really good start for them. He scored on that triple of Tatis. It was kind of cool to see that, the Sod Poodle connection going on there. And I think that's something we're seeing, too. Like, this is the beauty of minor league baseball. That is going to be lost when these 40-some-odd teams go away. Dennis has become a Major League Baseball fan of a team based on a minor league team in the town he lives in. And he's not the only one that's become a Padre fan. If he follows some of the Sod Poodle fan pages on social media, they're posting Padres videos all over the place. Munoz makes an appearance for the Padres last year. We're showing that. Adrian Morejon gets a start against the Cubs, his first Major League appearance, and people are going nuts about that. Major League Baseball gains fans through minor league baseball.
Yeah.
And yes, and they're losing money, sure, because stadiums need to be updated and all that. But an investment in that is an investment in the future of Major League Baseball, and it's going to be very sad to see them get rid of the 40-some. Now, fortunately for Amarillo, in that regard, we're fine because new team, new stadium. We have something that doesn't need as much maintenance or upkeep as some of these other places are going to need. Like Buffalo right now, where the Blue Jays are ultimately going to play. They're not going to play there yet because Buffalo's not ready. The stadium's not ready yet. So there's still going to be a home team on the road against other teams until like the middle of August or something. So it's just it's a really weird situation.
Last year we got to see George Springer come in with the Tulsa team, the Astro affiliate, to do a rehab assignment. The Tatis and all those players you got to see. It's sort of like people when you ask them, or you hear people say, I don't like college football or I don't like college basketball. I'm always stunned by that. I'm thinking, well, you see the future there. You kind of have a track record of how that kid performed if you watch college baseball, if you watch college football or college basketball. I feel the same way about minor league baseball. I mean, you know how we go up and down the lineups of teams, and some of those guys, man, you know, some of those are probably going to be strutting into Coopertown. Some of them are going to be all-stars. Some of them are going to have MVP-type seasons. And they played in Amarillo, Texas, or they played a team from Amarillo. That's amazing. That's a cool thing to be a part of. The genesis of an athlete, climb like that. So I never did understand people say, "Well, I don't like college football." I'm like, "You like football? Yeah, but I don't like you don't like football. You just like the NFL. You don't like football, or you don't like if you don't like minor league baseball. To me, you probably really don't like baseball because if you're only watching because of the names on the back of the jerseys, then you miss the point. You miss the whole point of the game.
And I'm going to tell you too. I'm kind of with Dennis a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way out and say I'm a Padres fan now, but I'm going to root for them a little bit more than I would have before, unless they're playing the Cubs. Obviously, that's my team, so that's always going to be my team. But because being able to see some of these guys here last year, getting to know some of them through the interviews we did on the podcast, Dave and I had a lot of fun with those. I'll be rooting for them a little bit harder because I know them as a person a little bit and got to see them play and see them interact with fans. And I know Amarillo loved it, and we got Padres fans here in Amarillo now. Just unfortunately, we weren't able to have a Sod Poodles season. But we at least had Texas Collegiate League Baseball, and Justin Casey of Bomb City Bats checking us out tonight. Enjoyed the show. He's got to take off. He's going to catch some more in the future. Cool. And love to have you on, Justin. Thanks for checking us out. And also thanks for leaving comments on the show. And thanks to everyone else for commenting on the show tonight. Once again, these interactive podcasts, because all that's going on with COVID, David and I aren't so much in the studio together anymore as much. So we're going to do a lot more of these interactive podcasts on this program we got here. As you can see, it's a lot of fun. It's hopefully fun for you to watch as well as you can interact with the show. And look, we're trying to do one of these every week or so. Maybe try to get some guests in here as the season goes on that you can interact with. But in the meantime, I'm getting hungry, and baseball games are starting to pop on TV. And David,
let me tell you this real quick, Tom. I know a lot of people, a lot of rumors out there. Where's Lance in the sports drive? We just haven't had sports, and it wasn't fair to Lance. It wasn't fair to his listeners if he came on and didn't have anything to talk about. But there's something big coming with the sports drive. Lance Launer, KGNC. Man, it's going to blow you away.
I didn't want to say anything, and because I wasn't sure where you stood on that, but yes, this has potential to be really cool.
It'll be huge, and it's a platform that the Sports Drive and Lance deserves. It's going to be game changing. It's just wait, just see.
And we're going to get Lance on here a little bit more too, trying to figure out a good time to get him on. And once we have more information on that, we will let Lance tell us himself, because that's going to be a lot of fun for him. A man well deserving of it. You know, as much of a icon in this town when it comes to sports as anybody. Yeah. And a great show in the sports drive. But once we get sports back, Lance is going to come back in full force, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll keep you informed on information about that. But David, appreciate it as always, man. You go home, have a good night, go get some sleep, wake up and do Newsday Amarillo in the morning.
I'll be up here about 4 or 5 hours. So I might as well just lay down here.
You might as well just lay down.
Take a nap. Wait for the janitor to come in and have some coffee.
There you go.
Watch baseball, man.
Go watch the baseball, and hopefully you're getting ready to watch some baseball as well. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. This is the Tom Talks Baseball podcast on Facebook and now YouTube. If you enjoyed what you watch, leave us a comment. Want to hear your feedback on that. And as always, anything we're doing in the future, you're welcome to hop right in and chime in and dictate how this show works. But everybody have a wonderful Wednesday night. We determined it was Wednesday. Enjoy that. Enjoy baseball. We will talk to you next week on the Tom Talks Baseball podcast. See you later.